Very impressive win again for close at hand. Peter Fernie and Lucy Fury combining there. Exciting to see where they head to next, Riley.
He's putting a nice little picket fence, isn't he, close at hand? And he's just another one of these many consistent city types that changes hands and comes up here to Kalgoorlie and can put a few wins on the board. He looks a really nice horse, and I'm looking forward to seeing whether they give him a couple more runs here, potentially win a couple more 70-plus races, and then we see him back in Perth, or they tip him out and potentially look at bringing him back for the racing round, which isn't actually too far away now that you think about it, but he's proven to be a very handy acquisition for Pete and his team for sure.
Absolutely, and as Lucy mentioned, Pete can generally get the best out of them as well when getting to Kalgoorlie. He's a very smart trainer, obviously has a very big team, but plenty of winners do come out of his stable, especially when changing hands to his name. Race number 4 now, the first leg of the quaddie. We'll get your quaddie numbers a little bit later as well, because I know you've had some recent success with some quaddies, Riley. But the Kalgoorlie Case and Drill Handicap, the 58 plus over the 1100 metres. First race of the day with each way betting. How are you playing this race?
I thought this was one of the more open races of the day initially, and then the markets early suggested that Dreamers Never Die. Went up around $3.50, $3.60, and I thought that was enough to have a bet, given the horse worked like a horse that suggested to me he'd be hard to beat first up. But he is now very short. He's only $2.60 at the moment with Tab Touch, and I'm going to suggest that maybe there's not as much value left in the price anymore, Tess, but the manner in which he trialled leading into his first up run today suggested to me that he would be hard to beat. He's been a horse I've always liked, just hasn't been able to string a consistent campaign together thus far, but importantly he gets back to Kalgoorlie today. He's unbeaten here at the track in 2 runs, and I think that's a big positive for him, clearly getting back to the KBRC.
Does have the pads off as well for the first time, so that's another big tick there. But runners are in the yard, so we'll begin our preview with the one Love Drunk Baby. Peter Fernie chasing a race-to-race double. Jefferson Sang in the seat.
He's going really well, this horse, at the moment. He's been racing with great consistency this campaign without winning, and he looks the perfect apprentice's horse for mine, particularly for a 4-kilo claimer as well, Tess. He's a horse that can roll forward in his races, put himself right over the speed, and he hasn't been beaten all that far in his recent runs as well. His last 2 runs with 60 kilos in this company have both been very good. He only gets in with the 56 today after the claim for Jefferson Sang, who's a really good young rider. He's going to be riding plenty of winners here in WA in his time, and he looks really well placed for mine today as a well-performed 70-plus sort of a horse here in Kalgoorlie into a 58 with a very winnable weight. So while he hasn't been operating at perhaps his best thus far this campaign, I think this looks a really nice race for him, and he's a genuine winning chance.
Has had some support in the market as well since opening at $5.50 into $4.20, now at $4.80 on the Tab Touch market. Jefferson Sang hoping to outride his 4-kilo claim today, 1 win away from doing so. The 2 is Magnasonic, Peter Fernie, Lucy Fury.
First up here this afternoon and having his first run for Peter Fernie, and yet another of these city type of horses that could prove to be a really handy acquisition for the team, Tess. He's got some nice form on the board from last campaign. He was a Class 5 winner down at Bunbury over the 1200 metres. He was beaten 2.5 lengths by Comic Hero in a graduation 1200 and beaten 3 lengths Ruler Rocket in a graduation 1100. That was all last campaign. Been tipped out, had a nice break, had a trial at Lark Hill. Looked to be in good order in that recent trial as well. Traditionally has been a horse that has taken a run as he builds into his campaign. He's got a really strong second up record, as you can see. You go even deeper back into his form through last campaign, and he actually ran second to On Plein Air, who was a subsequent Saturday winner, as we know, last week at Bunbury. He's versatile. He's got a lovely barrier to work with. He's got Lucy Fiore on board today, and I think he's another of Peter Fernie's stable that can walk away with a win this afternoon.
Is at $8.52, so a nice each-way price there, first up for the team. The 3 is the current Tab Touch favourite, and you're on top of here, Riley. Dreamers Never Die, Peter Fernie, Touch Faithful.
He's been well backed. He's $3.50 into $2.60 at the moment. Dreamers Never Die, and he's back to Kalgoorlie, importantly, Tess, where he's unbeaten. He's had 2 runs at the track for 2 victories. I thought his recent trial, defeating Caporetto, a nice up-and-coming 3-year-old on that occasion, was very good. Was the piece of work for mine for a horse that was going to be hard hard to beat wherever he finds himself first up. He showed good early speed in that trial as well, so I wonder whether Tash Faithful tries to push forward and hold a position with him here today. Given over the first 3 races, we haven't seen a horse win that has settled any worse than second in running, so it has been on speed thus far here this afternoon. I've always liked him, and he's a horse that, while he hasn't been able to string a real consistent campaign together, he's always shown real flashes of ability in his career to date, and thought this was a really nice kick-off point for him.
Well supported indeed now, $2.50 as mentioned. The 4 is Pearly Nugget, $6 out to $10. Helen Harding, Zephen Johnston Porter.
And she's on the back up. She raced here last weekend, and she's been racing with good consistency without winning as well this campaign. She actually led them up last week, and she was only run down over the concluding stages there. She ran 5th, beaten a couple of lengths by Secret Attire. She's back to 1,100 metres here today. I anticipate that they'll be happy to roll forward again to try and find the front or the breeze. I do think that drop back in distance is going to suit her here today, but the wide barrier means she's likely to have to do a little bit more work early doors, and that probably hurts her chances.
The 5 is Blue Can Talk, has been consistent this preparation. Neil Della, Shani Webster.
And given we've seen that on speed has been the place to be thus far today, I think she can give a bit of cheek today, Blue Can Talk, and importantly she's drawn underneath a horse like Pearly Nugget, who's likely to roll forward and try and apply a bit of pressure there as well. She worked to the breeze outside Pearly Nugget there last week in that same race, was able to beat her home, and excuse me, I thought she toughed it out really well over the concluding stages, and as I mentioned, she has drawn inside Pearly Nugget today, and that drop back to the 1,100 metres is going to suit her as well.
Science Degree is the 6th, 3 weeks between runs. Brett Drury and Natika Riordan.
He's another horse who's likely to roll forward to look for a prominent position in running. His last 2 have been very good in lesser grade. That was in Class 2 company, so maybe I'm a bit of a query on the strength of that form, but the runs have been good behind Dublin Red, Ultimate Paradise as well, who goes around a little bit later on today. Regardless of whether Natika Riordan can hold the front, he's going to lob into a lovely position in running from the barrier that he's drawn, and I'm expecting him to measure up in this company.
Carries just the 53.5 as well after the claim of Natika. The 7 is Famo, Helen Harding, Victoria Corver.
Thought he was a little bit plain last start, Famo. He had a great run throughout and was only fair over the concluding stages. He's going to enjoy a similar run in transit here from barrier 2, but off the back of that performance was beaten a tick under 3 lengths by Flober on that occasion. He would certainly need to elevate to be troubling the scorer.
And the 8 is They Call Me Alvin, Justin Robbins, Ava Caterino.
Ran last of 9 last start in 58 plus company behind Flobo. Was beaten 4.5 lengths, did get a long way back in running there. Going to get a much softer time of it today from barrier 1, but I couldn't have him off that last start effort.
Looking at the market quickly now, first race of the day with each way betting. Dreamers Never Die on is the current favourite and continuing to be very well supported at the start of the preview. $2.50 now, $2.05 and shortening. Science Degree on the second line of betting, $4 into $3.20 now $4.40. Love Drunk Baby $5.50 into $4.20 now $7. Magnasonic first start for Peter Fernie is $8.50. Pearly Nugget $6 out to $10. Blue Can Talk $11. Famo $31. And They Call Me Alvin at $26. Riley, how are we seeing things play out in the first leg of the quaddie?
I went 3, 1, 2 and 5 here, Tess. 3 on top for me. Dreamers Never Die. Love the trial leading in, and I think the big thing for this horse today is he gets back to Kalgoorlie. He's back under the care of Peter Fernie as well, and he's unbeaten here at the track in 2 runs. So I did think if he brought his best and he was able to replicate what he showed in that recent trial, he'd prove very hard to beat, and that's the way the market has trended with him as well. So 3 on top for me. Dreamers Never Die. I was happy to make him one of the better bets on the program. From the 1, Love Drunk Baby, I think he can be a big improver today, utilising that 4 kilo claim of Jefferson Sang, who's really hit the ground running here in WA. I've loved what I've seen from him to date, and he's been racing quite well with the 60 kilos on his back with the senior jockey on board his last couple of runs, and he now gets that massive weight relief of 4 kilos. He can roll forward and hold a prominent position in running, and I think he'll run a very honest race, as he always tends to do. The 2 Magnasonic generally takes a run to come on each and every campaign, but he's a very consistent type. He ran some really good races in Graduation Company last campaign, and wouldn't surprise me to see him win here today, but he will certainly be winning races here in Kalgoorlie, and looks likely to work his way into 70 plus company eventually. And the 5 Blue Can Talk, who can give a bit of cheek if Natika Ridden can get across and find the top with her. I think importantly for her, she's drawn inside another speed horse this time around. Like Pearly Nugget, had to sit in the breeze last week. I thought she toughed it out quite well. I think if she can get across and find the fence in running, then she'll be hard to run down over the concluding stages. But 3, 1, 2 and 5, my numbers here, Tess. But pretty keen if Dreamers Never Die, or the best version of him, turns up here first up off the back of that recent trial. I thought he'd be very hard to beat.
Very well supported in the market now. $1.95 we mentioned as the opening of the preview, $2.50, now $1.95. 3, 1, 2 and 5 are Riley's numbers here in the first leg of the quaddie. The light is on, the starter's in the hand of the starter, so we'll hand you upstairs to Royce to call us home.
Thanks, Tess. Yes, runners almost complete here in terms of the line at the 1100 metres. This is the Kalgoorlie Case and Drill Handicap. Dreamers Never Die, your favourite on screen, about to come forward. Just a gear adjustment, it looks like, being undertaken. Even money now, Dreamers Never Die. It's had plenty of support in the lead up to this race. It was $2.70 about half an hour ago. So Dreamers Never Die to come forward. Tash Faithful looking to get on the board this afternoon. Of course, Lucy has taken out the past couple. So stand by, we're set. The Kalgoorlie Case and Drill. Gates fly back, they're off. Racing now, They Call Me Elvin. Jumped only fairly from the inside. Going back is the favourite, Dreamers Never Die. Blue Can Talk with early speed pushing forward. Likewise, Pearly Nugget the outside. They were being followed by Science Degree, who's on the improve, wants to be closer to the speed. They were followed by Love Drunk Baby, who settles down behind the leading division today. A further length and a half to Famo in the clear. A similar margin then we've got Magnasonic, They Call Me Elvin, and Dreamers Never Die at the tail. So 8 lengths covers the field of 8 with 500 metres to run. And it's Blue Can Talk who shows the way. The pacemaker out by 3/4 of a length. Running second is Pearly Nugget. Then we had Science Degree, who got to the inside. They were followed by Love Drunk Baby, a further length and a half to Famo. Then Magnasonic, well back then to Dreamers Never Die, who starts to get warm down the outside. And last is They Call Me Elvin. So hitting the lead here, we've got Pearly Nugget in front, followed by Blue Can Talk. Dreamers Never Die down the outside for Faithful, but responding is Pearly Nugget. It's Pearly Nugget at the 100. Dreamers Never Die can't get there for the time being, and it's Pearly Nugget who goes on and wins. Pearly Nugget by 4 lengths. Second in Dreamers Never Die, third Science Degree, fourth Love Drunk Baby. They were followed in by Magnasonic. Then we had Famo with Blue Can Talk, the pacemaker knocking up, and last to greet the judge was They Call Me Elvin. Well, a big win here. This has really found a couple of lengths. Pearly Nugget underneath Zephen Johnston Porter, and has gone on to be a clear winner. And they've ran time too, 104.54 the gallop for the 1100. That's pretty slick today, considering the times we've seen in the previous races. And Pearly Nugget brings up win number 5 at start 32. That's his 6th start at the track today, his first victory. There's Snippets and Mare. And out of Pearlesque, Stato Blessed mare, owned by Chris Harding and S. Lawrence, trained by Helen Harding and Zephen Johnston Porter. Chris doing a good job with these horses while Helen recovers. So for Pearly Nugget, your winner from the 3, Dreamers Never Die, Peter Fernie, Tash Faithful, by Nakoni from White Mouse, owned by Andrew Ingalls. Third in the 1, Love Drunk Baby for Pete Fernie, Jefferson Sang by Bradbury's Luck from I'm a Sittin' Pretty, owned by Karen Fernie, and Science Degree, in fact, gets 4 for Brett Drury. And Natika Riordan, well, a dominant win there, 3.5 lengths, the official margin by a length and a half, 104.54. Okay, interim numbers 4, 3, 1, 6. Race 5 is next. And that is the Paddy Byrne Handicap. Gets underway at 20 past 3. A field of 10 to run. Your early favourite is Ruling Dame at $2.90. Plenty of chances in the next. It gets a bit harder for punters from here on in. But in the meantime, let's cross down to the yard and catch up with the connections of Pearly Nugget.
Thanks, Roy. So I've got Chris Harding here representing Mum Helen. Great result, Pearly Nugget. It's been a little while since last win, but how's she been? Sorry, behind the scenes.
Yeah, she's been going really well. The start before last year was really good. Last start probably a little bit disappointing, but we thought she could bounce back today after week back up. So.
Zephen seems to know her quite well as well, having stuck for the last couple of runs. He must be quite happy with how he's riding.
Yeah, no, he's riding super at the moment. He's pretty much riding the whole team up here, so no, very happy.
And touch on Mum as well. How's she going?
Yeah, getting a bit toey. She'll be back here in probably a couple of weeks' time, so she'll catch up with everyone then.
Very safe hands with you though, so congratulations to yourself and the team.
Thank you.
There's Chris. Here's Zephen Johnston Porter.
Thanks, Tess. Catching up with Zephen. Back at the races 7 days later after her run last week. Zephen, today was a much better performance.
No, absolutely.
You led last week. You weren't able to lead today. You had to settle for the breeze outside Blue Can Talk, and perhaps you just appreciated today having something to chase in the run home.
100%. I don't think she really likes leading. Suited her a lot better today.
Great ride, mate. Congratulations on the win.
Thank you.
There's Zephen Johnston Porter combining with Helen Harding and Pearly Nugget taking out the Kalgoorlie Case and Drill Handicap over the 1100 metres. Numbers here 4, 3, 1 and 6. Pearly Nugget takes out the first leg of the quaddie. We hope you're still alive. There's 3 races to come and plenty of exciting action here at the KBRC.